Hey cats, what's happening? Been rainy today, so it's not a good day to take a bike ride. And thunderstorms are still projected for the rest of the day. I mean, you still have some blue sky up there, but these big black clouds have been rolling in from the west there and the weather says more storms coming. Not riding today. What we are going to talk about though is when we are out for a ride, what happens when the old bike decides just to conk out and quit on you? What do you do? Now this video may be more for the novice rider or the rookie rider. Perhaps you're just new to motorcycle riding. But then again, it's a good reminder to some of us old timers that have been on the bike for a long time. Because, sometimes when things happen and it quits on you, you get a little frustrated. And right away, your head starts swimming, especially if you're in traffic or something, and it's difficult to think fast. It's difficult to think of what you're going to do next. First thing you want to do is get that thing off to the side of the road where you're safe. You don't want to be in a situation where you're going to get whacked by somebody in traffic. So if you're on the highway, you want to get far over on the berm. Get yourself out of the traffic as fast as possible. If you're out in the country, rural area, you may want to look for a driveway or something to pull your bike into where you're off the road, because there's really no leeway on those narrow country roads to be able to have your bike sitting there where you can take a look and work at it. So when your bike does conk out, what are some of the first things you're going to look at? Well, the number one thing that happens to almost every biker I know at one time or another, you're going to run out of gas. It's usually the most common thing. The bike doesn't have a gas gauge. On my Harley, I use my trip meter here. When I turn it on, fire it up, you'll see I have 65 miles on there. I usually don't fuel up until I'm at about 150, 160 miles. Then I start looking for a gas station. It doesn't mean I'm anywhere near out of fuel, but I like to keep my tanks topped off. I don't put myself in a position where I'm going to be sucking fumes. Now, if I am going down the road and it starts sputtering and coughing and I think, oh boy, I forgot to check, I'm probably out of gas. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? Most motorcycles have a reserve fuel. If you look under the side of the bike, you'll see the fuel petcock, and this is right here, and it's in the on position on my Harley. If I put it up this way, it shuts the fuel off completely. Now I have one other option. If I turn it straight up, that empties a reserve tank. So what I want to do is I want to sit on the bike. If this is your bike, you're going to sit on the bike. And let me get the handlebars. Well, I got them locked in there. I'm going to want to reach under there with my arm. And I'm going to want to feel where that fuel petcock is. I want to know where it is. So I can see mine's right here at the back of the tank, where I can reach down with my left arm, I can grab hold of it, and real quickly I can turn it up while I'm still moving down the road. And if I am out of fuel, it's going to take off again. That's the hope anyway. Doesn't always work that way. The reserve tank's going to give you anywhere from, I don't know, it's different with every bike, but I would say this bike could give me anywhere from 20 to 40 miles so I can get to a gas station. It's not going to go a whole lot further than that. So if you have to flip to reserve and that was your problem and the bike's going to run again on reserve, you'll want to get to a gas station pretty fast. You don't want to run on that, because once that's empty, you're out of gas. You're going to be pushing or you're going to be walking. Now, one thing to remember, if you do have to use your reserve Always make sure that after you refuel, you're going to turn it back to on again. You don't want to leave it on reserve, because next time you'll run completely out of fuel, and that won't be good either. So make sure your petcock's in the right position. Learn where it is, learn where to reach for it. And if you do run out of gas on the highway, you know real quick you can reach down, flip that thing up, get yourself going again, and get to a service station. Now let's say you got plenty of fuel though. That wasn't the problem. Your bike died, it sputtered, it coughed, and now you're on the side of the road. You hit the starter, nothing happens. What's wrong? What do I do? On my Harley, over here on the throttle handle, this is an on and off button. You might have accidentally hit that button and shut off your ignition. It won't start for anything until you turn it back on again. So that might just be a real simple fix. Something you want to check first of all. If it wasn't the on and off switch and you still can't get it to start, the most common thing is going to be a battery connection. It's happened to me, and anybody that's been on the road for any amount of time is going to tell you the same thing. It's probably happened to them too. So you're going to want to check your battery connection. Now you're going to need to use some tools. So you want to have some handy tools in your tool bag to be able to take care of some of these issues. First of all, you're going to need to know how to get your seat off. In my situation, I have to take the back seat off first before I can take the driver's seat off. Now originally, the passenger seat was connected to the driver's seat, but I have disconnected that at this point, and I'll show you how I do it. All I have back here is one Phillips head screw that comes out very easily. So I want to make sure I bring a Phillips screwdriver in my tool pouch. And the back seat comes off. Now it has a little tab, see, and you can see the holes where it used to bolt to the driver's seat, but it just kind of snaps underneath there and it stays in place that way. On my Fat Boy, now all motorcycles are a little different. They're not all the same, I'll grant you. But my seat comes off with this hex head. So I want to keep that in my tool bag as well. I have one bolt on each side that comes off with the hex wrench. Now to remove my driver's seat, I simply grab underneath it. After it's unbolted from the sides, I wiggle it a little bit and pull back on it, and it comes off. You'll see there's a little tab right there. That tab has to slide underneath this bracket. So when I remove the seat, I have to pull it back out of that bracket before I pick it up. That exposes my battery. Now the first thing I'm going to look at is these battery connections right here. And whoa, look at that. Look at the corrosion on that negative side. So that's probably where my issue is. It's probably not making a good contact there because of all that corrosion, and it's going to need to be cleaned up. So I'm going to need to pull the battery out of there, clean that up real good, and well, how am I going to do that? One of the best tools you're going to use for that is a handy little multi-purpose tool. This isn't a real expensive Leatherman or anything like that. This one is probably just a Walmart or a Harbor Freight issue, but it's going to work all the same. It's got a nice pair of pliers on there, and it's got a variety of other tools on there that can help clean and scrape that corrosion off of that. So I'll be able to use these pliers to loosen up these bolts, pull the battery out, clean that up, and put it all back together. Now we've got the connections all nice and clean. Obviously I'm working in the garage here, so you know I had a wire brush. If you're out on the side of the road, it may not be as simple. you may have some issues. This was so corroded, my issue was that the nut inside there was froze up and the whole thing was spinning. So I had to take this nut off up here, which released the cord. I could pull the whole battery out with the negative cable still attached to it, unattaching it from this point. Pull the whole battery out, and then I was able to get that cleaned up and get that fixed. If you're on the side of the road, you know, it might not be so easy, but it's still something that can be accomplished. So there you go. That's another simple thing you can do. One more thing I will say on a side note, when you're cleaning that battery terminal and you're scraping that white junk off of there, especially if you're gonna, blow the junk out of there, be really careful. That stuff's really highly corrosive. You don't want to get it in your eyes. You don't want to get it in your, don't be picking your nose or sticking your fingers in your mouth. If you do, you'll know it. It's highly corrosive. So when you're done, be sure to wipe your hands off really good before you put it all back together. You may want to check your wiring harnesses if that doesn't work. Look for connections. Make sure all your connections are tight. Check your fuses. You got a fuse box here too you can check. Make sure your fuses aren't burnt. And just go ahead and give the whole bike a once look over, because you just might find something out of place that might be a clue as to why it's not running. Now, if that doesn't work and you can't fix it on the side of the road, call a reputable towing company to pick it up. You know, I've heard some horror stories of companies that'll just take and throw these on the back of a truck, put a cable on them, winch them up onto a flatbed sideways. You really don't want to deal with anything like that. So make sure they're experienced in picking up and moving a motorcycle for you, and where you can get it to a shop and get it repaired. That's all I can tell you today, guys. Good luck if you're out on the road. I hope you don't run into any of those major problems. I hope your fix is simple. Just hit that reserve and keep on going and get yourself filled up with some fuel. That's all I got for today. Hit the subscribe button. Get on board with us. Leave your comments down below. Love to hear from you. Maybe you've got some other simple fixes, some things that I didn't think of to take a look at your bike. So I'm going to go ahead and put my seat back on, put the bike back together, and you know what? I don't know what happened to that storm, but it doesn't look so bad out here right now. I might have time to take a little scoot. I'm going to make sure that this battery was hooked up right here. Until next time, cats, ride hard and die free.